The following production is part of the Play Some Video Games podcast network.
Greetings, bosses, and welcome to Board with Video Games, the gaming podcast that strives for the right balance of coverage for games you play on your table and on your television. You could think of us as the Master Chief and Cortana of gaming podcasts. We're a proud member of the PSVG Podcast Network and a member of the Make Us Better team over on Patreon. I am one of your hosts, Kyle, and joining me on this co-op adventure, the guy still willing to hang out with me, even though I'm well past my expiration date. Josh, how are you doing this evening?
I have an interesting story. I'm hot.
Okay, and confident. I like it.
Yeah, not in the sexy way.
So why are you warm this evening?
So it's extremely hot in New England right now. We had a heat advisory warning today with a heat index of 101 to 105. To be hotter tomorrow. However, that being said, today was the day they picked to spray for West Nile in my neighborhood because we've had West Nile breakouts. We've had 3 cases in the city so far. So they've been doing neighborhoods as it's popped up. So this unfortunate timing also meant that they spray between dusk and midnight. Mm-hmm. But because no one would be home after I left for work, all the windows in the house have been shut since noon.
Oh.
All day, and they still haven't sprayed the area, so all the windows are still shut in the house, and it's still a solid 85 degrees outside at 10:26 p.m., which means it's about probably 110 in the house right now.
So here's where I'm going to get super naive about my knowledge of New England. Do you guys not have like air conditioning? Is that not a thing?
Well, we do have air conditioning. There's one AC unit in the house. It's in the baby's room. We don't have central air, which I know a lot of people have. We have an air conditioner. And so that's always fun. And the houses are so old. If I tried to run 2 ACs, I'd probably blow the whole house. So
I have lived in places like that, so that I can totally relate to for sure. Absolutely. Well, oddly enough, I mean, we're not a weather podcast, but it actually hasn't been that warm here, but it has been so ridiculously humid.
Yeah, for sure.
Crazy, ridiculous humid. And we haven't been that warm. Like, we've been in the low 80s for the last couple of weeks, but it's been really humid and it has been raining like every day. So my lawn is out of control because like it'll get sunny for like a day, but it's been so wet, like nothing dries out. So I can't mow my lawn because it's still soaking wet. And then it rains again the next day and is humid and so my lawn is ridiculous right now. But thankfully everyone's is, so I don't feel that horrible of a neighbor. But man, it's been humid and rainy and warm and just kind of feels like, I mean, I know the jungle would be warmer than what we are, but it just definitely feels like living in a different climate that I'm used to right now. So
it is really bizarre. We also broke the record for all-time humidity for Massachusetts.
Oh, wow.
The most days above 70% of all time in recorded humidity temperatures in Massachusetts. Whew. So I know humidity is killing everybody.
Right.
So, I mean, it's, it can't be global warming, so I don't know what it is, Kyle.
I don't know what else it could be either. Oh, man. All right. But hey, you know what? This isn't a weather podcast, and that would be one I really would not be able to do very well. So I'm glad that it's not. But this is a gaming podcast. So thanks so much for joining us this week. As always, if you have any feedback, questions, suggested topics, hit us up at Board with VG on Twitter or at Board with VG over on Instagram to see all the awesome pictures that Josh posts over there. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/boardwithvg. We'd love a 5-star rating over there if you want to drop it. Also, if you want to communicate in the long form and you're not really feeling the whole social media, send us an email. boardwithvg@gmail.com. And as always, use that hashtag boardwithvg on all the social medias so we can follow what you're playing, what you're talking about, and we can be involved and have an awesome conversation about it. And as always, if you're interested in helping make us better, check out Patreon at patreon.com/makeusbetter. And a big thank you to all the supporters over there. We really appreciate those of you who are chipping us a few bucks, helping to make the things that we do and the things that the greater PSVG and Make Us Better crew do. We really do appreciate it. One final housekeeping reminder. I do want to put another plug in there for the Metafall contest. If you listened to episode 46, you heard Josh and I talk about some of the big games coming out this fall and what we thought their Metacritic scores were going to be. And if you want to send us your scores, you can win a free video game, which seems pretty cool. So if you hit up psvg.blog or look at the pinned tweet on our Twitter account or listen to episode 46 for all the rules, you can win a free video game. Just a reminder, entries are due by the end of the day, September 7th. So enough of all this housekeeping stuff. Josh, what have you been playing on your tabletop, sir?
Okay, well, one more thing for housekeeping before I get into that.
Yeah.
Speaking of Patreon, so I haven't listened to last week's episode yet, but if I sound better, which I don't know if I do or not.
You did. I thought you did.
Okay, good. Just to show that that Patreon money is going towards the podcast network. Myself and Kevin Austin were upgraded in microphones, which was a pleasant surprise for me. I was not expecting it. And I would say, if you are donating, if you are contributing, even I am, so technically I helped get myself a microphone. It is going to literally make us better in all aspects. So yeah, thank you to all the Patreons, specifically for me. And you'll see more people from PSVG getting upgrades, whether it be headphones or microphones or whatever's needed to make our content better for you guys. So that being said, on to board games. I think we're going to talk about the same game.
I think we are.
You apparently played Megalands, and I played Megaland.
Yeah. Sometimes when I write show notes, I'm in a hurry. In my mind, it's Megalands, but I know it's Megaland. I also got really confused because when I looked it up in my mind, this was 2 words. Because when you look at the cover of the box, the L looks kind of like it's a capital. So when I was looking for it, I put a space in Board Game Geek, and then I couldn't find it, which I've always thought is really interesting about Board Game Geek search function is you have to nail it exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So if you mess up like putting a space in Megaland, it's not going to find Megaland, even though you spelled it correctly. If you do MEGA space LAND, no game exists.
There you go.
So that's when I realized I had made the mistake, but I had already done the show notes and I didn't want to fix it.
That's okay. We did upgrade Villainous, which I encourage people to do if they want. We went to Michael's and they have all their Halloween stuff out, so we grabbed a metal cauldron and some gems. My wife said, every Disney villain has a theme, and that theme is always like this neon fluorescent green color that appears somewhere in the movie surrounding the villain. Which she cited very many movies for me to prove that's true. So she wanted to get that color. So we tried our best to duplicate that. So now we have some nice gems, a cauldron, the broken token insert. I took some pictures of that. We played another game, which was fun and quicker than our previous games. And and then we played Megaland first.
Okay.
I had to trick her into playing Villainous. I was like, let's just put the insert stuff in. Oh, well, we already have it out. We might as well play now. But yeah, we played Megaland. We had a question 2 weeks ago from Kevin Austin asking about it. So I figured it would be time to cover it. And I didn't really know what to expect going into it. From Ryan Lockett, I've only played Above and Below, and only once. So I'm familiar with the art style, but I didn't know if we were getting like the same theming. And it kind of is borrows the theming from Above and Below, where you're literally going below the surface. But that's pretty much it from theming wise. That I believe from Above and Below, besides the character cards, but that's just artistic, not theming, I don't think. or mechanic is what I want to say, the mechanic from. So if you looked at my post, I kind of compared it to like if Clank and Machikoro had a little baby of a board game. It borrows a lot from both of those games, where you have these rows set up of starting buildings that you can buy, and then you put out 7 random, depending on how you read the rules, you can do 7 random buildings. They tell you, because they're valued from 1 to 7, but they tell you like to start, you should put out places varying from 1 to 5 in cost for your first game. So that's what we did. So we had a couple, I think, 2s and 3s out there. But what I like about it is the buildings, when you put those out, those are the cost of the buildings. And there's like, for the 3s, there's like 5 or 6 different buildings in the 3 cost level, which I like. It adds a lot of variety to the game. And the insert is great because there's room for every individual cost and building type, so you can easily access them. But essentially what you're doing is you're picking a character, you're getting 4 life to start, and you're entering, do they call it a level? I think they call it
a level. Yep, it's supposed to be like a video game level.
Right, okay. So you're starting on level 1, we'll say, or the main level. And at the beginning of the game, everyone takes their character. They start on this level, and you draw a treasure from the treasure pile, and then you explore the first level of this dungeon, I'll call it, just for my own brain's sake. And then it will either be, it's also a little bit like Boss Monster, because you'll encounter either a boss, a treasure chest, or an empty space. And your goal is to get as much treasure as you can by exploring deeper and deeper into this dungeon or this cave without dying. And that's where the trick is. I don't know about you, but our first 2 attempts, we died both times immediately because we drew a monster with 3 damage right after a monster with 1 damage. So I got a little frustrated right away. I was a little worried that this was going to be a common theme. But luckily, it didn't work out that way. You also have something you can do where you can buy extra hearts, and you can buy buildings with your treasure. So to buy extra hearts, you trade in duplicate items. So 2 of 1 item, 3 of 1 item, 4 of 1 item, 5 of 1 item to add 1 heart. And you can do that once per pair or triplet or quadruplet. To buy buildings, you need to trade in unique items. So 1 fish, 1 carrot, and 1 gem can get you a 3 building. So when you first look at it, it's not like you're getting money to buy buildings. It's more like trading goods. And you can only store as many treasure as you have with as many buildings as you have. So once you complete a dungeon, you decide, all you have to do is say, I'm not going to go any further. Take your character off the board. You essentially go to town, and you sit there and you wait for the other players to complete their turn, whether they die or whether they go back to town. If you die, you lose all the gear you acquired in your adventure. And if you make it back to town, you do that. You take all your treasure back with you. You trade it in for buildings or hearts, and you store what you have left, and then you discard what you can't carry. With the Machikoro aspect of it is that when you are buying these buildings, they are either giving you immediate reward, which are coins, and the goal of the game is to get 20 coins to win, or they're giving you either a nighttime phase reward, which happens after the buying phase, or they give you a reward when something happens to your opponents. For example, I had a building that anytime someone died exploring, I would get 2 coins, which was beneficial. They also have certain things that tell you cannot stack, which immediately we were like, oh, great. So everything that doesn't say does not stack does stack. So then we started like buying up these buildings, and And my wife beat me on her last turn. She got like 10 coins in the night phase. I thought I had her. I thought I was like a couple coins away from winning. She's like, okay, I won. I'm like, what? I didn't. You said you had 12 coins. She's like, I did. Now I have 20. Like, okay. But I really enjoyed it. I want to play it again and with more people. The art is a Ryan Lockett game. Like, it's good art. It's very cartoony. I don't think that the video game theme really puts itself on the front page, so to speak, for the game. Like, I didn't really feel like that theming was motivating me to play or was strong enough for me to feel like I was playing like a video game themed board game, if that makes sense. Because I kind of just immediately felt the Clank aspect of the game, except it's a lot easier to get out than it is in Clank, because in Clank you got to climb your way back up to the top. But what did you think of Megaland?
So, like you, well, before I jump into it, did you just play it the one time?
Yeah, we just played one game.
How long did it take you?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say 40 minutes, maybe.
Okay. So overall, I think, yes, you were kind of hitting on a lot of the things of what this game is, right? It is Machi Koro, but instead of rolling dice, is pushing luck, basically. Right. You don't get one dice roll, and then what happens? You are pushing luck to see basically how much stuff you can get. First off, I agree with you. I don't think the video game theme here really fits well for me, because I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to assume that everything that's happening is happening in this video game. But for me, I feel like you go run the level, and then because of stuff you get in a video game, you get to buy buildings, and then you go to bed.
Yeah,
like it doesn't really connect well for me. That doesn't, for me, drastically change my opinion of the game. I'm just somebody who really enjoys theme a lot in a game. And maybe I just didn't read enough of the fine print to fully understand how all the different phases of this game connect to the video game theme.
Right.
But with that being said, overall, I do enjoy this game. I think it's pretty fun. I do think it's very light. I think that it does a good job of balancing the push your luck and then really giving you the information you need from a probability perspective to make the decisions. Are they always going to work out? No, because like you said, sometimes it's like 1 damage, 3 damage. Well, that was fast, and now I guess I'm done. Because if you get a 1 damage, what is the chance you're going to be like, I'm done? If it's the first card, hopefully for everyone, the chance of you stopping is 0, because that should be what it is, right? You should keep going. But obviously, if you stop, then you look brilliant. Even though it was the wrong decision. It is the wrong decision.
Yes.
Anyway, but yeah, I the art in this game is spectacular. I do generally like the phases of the game. Again, like I know I said, I don't feel thematically like they fit well, but I like how it all fits together. I like the idea of trying to collect as much treasure as you can and pushing your luck to see, okay, what exactly am I going to get? I like the juxtaposition a little bit of wanting to have unique treasures to buy buildings, but then same treasures to increase your hearts. It really adds not a significant, but it adds a little bit of a thought process to, okay, I could either buy 1 building this time, that costs 3, or I could buy a building that costs 2 and get a heart for 2 because I have, 2 that match. Otherwise, I'll just have this 1 leftover one that matched. So I think it does some good weight. It's a good thing for you to kind of think about and mull over what decision you want to make there. So I like that. I think that overall the building powers are decently unique. I think that it mixes things up. There are some that are very powerful, and you're right, you can very easily go from 10 or 12 coins to 20 coins in one night. It can happen very quickly, so you really have to try to pay attention. There's not a ton of interaction with other players. There's a little bit and a few cards that will do that, where you'll gain benefit if they make a mistake or something, but there's not a ton of player interaction, which makes it hard a little bit. Similar in some ways to Machi Koro, when you see your opponent really getting to the point where they can win easily, and there's so you have to get the exact right thing to happen for you to be able to do anything about it. In Machi Koro, it's like, oh, I have to get the right dice roll, so hopefully I get lucky. Or in this game, it's like I have to have this run work exactly the way I want it to. Or maybe they make a mistake and they push something that they shouldn't have, or whatever. But yeah, it's a really quick game. The first game that we took the first game we played, probably took 35 to 40 minutes. And then the second game we played 25.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Once you get the hang of it and once you start, not that we knew all of the building cards, because like you had mentioned, there is a group of building cards that is going to be different when you play it. You're not going to have the same combinations. Not that we know all of those yet, but we definitely had a couple of duplicates and kind of knew how things were interacting, and you're starting to get a feel for it. So overall, I really enjoyed the game. I think it is, like I said, pretty light. I think this is a good game, especially if you're potentially looking at gaming with younger folks a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think easily 8, I think, would be able to handle this not too bad. And I think maybe even for people who aren't really into the designer board game or the hobby board game market, this might be a good game to get them into that might help push them that direction. I think this might be a pretty easy and straightforward gateway game, especially with how quick it is. Mm-hmm. That once you learn what you're doing, it is very quick to teach. It is very quick to learn. And you can get along it and get clipping along there pretty good. I only played it with 2 players. I know it's 2 to 5. I would like to play it with more to see how the interaction works differently, to see, how much spice is added or what changes occur when you play it with more. I don't know it's going to be that different, but it definitely could be that in ways that I can't anticipate.
Sure.
I think production quality, though, is really good. I think the art is great. The cards and all the components are good. That game tray in there is pretty great.
Yeah, that's great.
Definitely the production quality, especially for the price of this game, I think is very good. So overall, I feel like this is, I don't want to say a home run per se, but I feel like this game being a Target exclusive, I feel like everything about it makes sense and fits. It makes sense why Target wanted this game. It makes sense why it's on their shelves. And I think, whether you are a hobby gamer looking to get something a little more entry level, or if you're a person who's never played a hobby style board game before and you pick this up at Target randomly, you're still going to be able to understand it and do it.
Right.
So yeah, overall, I think it's pretty cool. I think there's some nice little unique twists in there, like the bunny card, being able to trade in carrots and stuff. I think that's a nice little unique thing. The jump mechanic that's in there, I think, is another little trying to guess the probability of, can I jump over this damage that I'm going to be getting, and how do I use that or not use that? So there's enough little flourishes, if you would, to definitely rise this above or push this above a standard fair game. I don't think it's one that we're going to get to the table all that often, but I think it is one if we're looking to play something quick, or if we're looking for a filler, or if we have some new people who maybe are looking for something a little lighter to end tonight. I could see us busting out and playing some more Megaland. So
yeah, for sure. For $25, it's a no-brainer. I think it's definitely, there's more value in the game than what you're paying for, I think.
Absolutely, 100% agree. Any other thoughts on Megaland?
No. Make sure you check. Did you get the insert on the bottom of it?
Did I get the insert on the bottom of it?
Lift up the game tray.
I'll have to go look now. Now I don't know. I'm not the one. I was I'm not the one who got everything out, so I actually don't. But I'll have to go look. Yeah. So
lift up the underneath of the game tray.
Okay, I was the one learning all of the rules and stuff while the wife was punching things out and doing everything else with the game. I was learning it, so I don't know. Awesome. Did you play any other board games, or was it just on the video games at that point?
No, it was just those 2 games that I played this weekend.
Awesome. So what did you play on your television then, sir?
So, let's see. What should I talk about? I played Graveyard Keeper for a little bit, since it is one of the games that came out on Game Pass, day and date. It is essentially Stardew Valley, but you are a dead person who maintains a graveyard. It looks cool, looks nice, but for me, I could tell within 15 minutes of playing, it just isn't a game for me. So that didn't last too long. Are you familiar with the game Hyper Universe?
I am not.
Okay, I didn't think so. Hyper Universe is a free-to-play game I don't know if it's just Xbox or not. I'm going to guess it's not. I was originally turned onto it from the actor Orlando Jones was posting some stuff that he got from Microsoft, and one of them was DLC for this game, Hyper Universe. And I tweeted at him, I said, what is Hyper Universe? And he's like, I have no idea. I think it's a new, like, a free-to-play, like, mobile game coming out. I said, okay. And then I noticed it launched. So I booted it up. It has, like, what I would say is, like, a generic version of the mom from Incredibles on the cover. And so I was like, oh, I wonder, if this is, like, a superhero theme. So I booted it up as this really nice opening, like anime style opening. There is the voice acting is solid, so I was intrigued. It is a MOBA, and don't ask me what MOBA stands for. Massive Online Battle Arena or something like that. But in the like vein of like League of Legends or Smite. However, it changes the formula of MOBA because it turns it into a side scroller. So it's like playing through a side-scrolling platformer, but with all the MOBA aspects. So you still have towers, you still have minions coming after you, you still have like level monsters that are just sitting there that you can attack for power-ups, and you still upgrade your abilities. But the characters, there's a very like Fei Long is one of the characters. So you have nunchucks. Or it's like a Fei Long ripoff, like a Bruce Lee Fei Long character.
Okay.
You have like the superhero characters, you have monsters, you have all the wacky stuff you see from these crazy mobile games. It was fun for a minute, but it really just made me realize that I'm not good at MOBAs, and I don't really enjoy them. I want to, but I just don't enjoy them. But I think that it's free, so anyone who's into MOBAs at all, just try it, because it's definitely a different take on the formula. And you're going like up and down levels, like you go upstairs. The very, very top of the level is a huge dragon you can fight, like the size of the screen dragon. It's unique. Everyone's character movesets are different, so it's definitely worth checking out. Definitely came in under the radar for me. So yeah, Hyper Universe. And then I played some Star Wars Battlefront II. So the other night I jumped in, I just did a Walker Assault mode. I kind of had a lot of fun. Don't tell anyone. Yeah, it wasn't bad. Like it really scratched that itch that I thought I was missing with Battlefront. Like I got, swept up with all the negatives, and there's still a lot of negatives in the game, especially when it comes to content unlocking. But that's just how these games work. So like, that's just like a negative for me. Like, I don't feel like opening crates and getting emotes is something that's really satisfying for how much time you put into a match. There's so many weapons and gear, but that's on the multiplayer side. You can go play like co-op and have all these weapons unlocked, which is great. But I did want to talk to you about something, because I think the spoiler zone is over for Battlefront 2. And
okay, so I'm assuming we're going to talk about the story mode.
I'm just going to talk about a small portion, but yeah, if you don't want some of a part of the story mode spoiled for you, then skip ahead 2 minutes, because it's not going to take long.
Okay. So
you get to this level. So it's after you free the ship that is a lockdown. You're doing the Starship Battle mode.
Okay.
So I can't remember the name of the Dauntless.
Okay.
You free the Dauntless that's like locked down magnetically onto this ship, and then
okay, yep,
you get into the story, and you're sent to this planet Ilio, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Right in the middle of the story, right? You're the main character. You're up in this big spaceship, and then they're like, okay, we have to go scout out this planet for the Emperor's secret, storage unit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Then all of a sudden you jump down and like you see R2-D2. You're like, oh, cool. And then you see Luke, and it's a pretty decent voice actor for not being Mark Hamill. And you get the story, and then all of a sudden, okay, you're Luke Skywalker. All right, I can get into this. So I'm playing as Luke for a little bit. It's interesting. You know, you can kind of tell they didn't really flesh out the heroes like modes in the game because there's not a lot of character to the character, if you will, like movement and things like that.
Right.
So it feels a little hollow to me, at least. And you're going through this level as Luke, and then you meet the bad guy. And you're like, let's work together. Okay, this is weird. All right. And this guy's like, not only is Luke being like, let's work together, but this guy's like, okay, well, I guess I'm not scared of Jedi after all, or whatever. And you go through this really weird story, and then you get put on this defense mission where you're essentially fighting off waves of Castlevania bats as Luke Skywalker.
Yep. Yeah.
It's horrible. Like, and they just keep coming. And
yeah,
like,
they do.
There's at one point where the bad guy goes, 4 minutes until, I'm like, I better not be doing this for another 4 minutes. I'll throw this game through the window. So you do the mission, you complete it, you get into it. Luke's like, can I take this compass? And he's like, why would I let you take it? He's like, because I asked. Oh, okay, sure, you can have it. And it's like, I guess we just go back to being enemies. He's like, well, no, you can do better. Join the rebellion? He's like, no, don't worry about joining the rebellion. Like, yes, you want him in the rebellion. You idiot. So like Luke saunters away, and then they just like seamlessly cut to that dude being back on a spaceship, standing. He's not like, I just met Luke Skywalker. What's going on? He's just like, nothing unusual happened. She's like, okay, let's go to this next planet now. You're like, why? It was so lazy. Like, you know, the guys were like, we got to figure out a way for them to play as Luke Skywalker somehow. Like, I don't know the reasoning behind it. I don't know what the heck happened with that.
Have you finished the story of the campaign?
No, I had to stop after that. I needed a break.
Yeah, so I finished the campaign, and I won't spoil anything because I don't want to. I don't know that there's much worth spoiling, to be honest. There's everything that happens in the campaign. I was like, well, I saw that coming from a mile away, or I don't understand what's happening right now. It was one of those two things. And yeah, I understand we said we wanted a campaign in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Maybe we didn't.
We didn't want EA to do it.
Maybe we didn't want a campaign. And I feel bad, right? Because, you know, when I look at and who am I? I always feel a little bit, I don't want to, probably imposter syndrome is the best phrase to use right now. I always feel a little bit, or maybe guilty, when I criticize games that don't do things that I know I couldn't do, right? Like, I could never write a video game. There's no way. I don't have the skill. I don't have the talent. I don't have the ability to do that. But the people who did write this game are people who I have a lot of respect for, in the fact that Mitch Dyer wrote it and Walt Williams wrote it, and I loved Spec Ops: The Line that Walt Williams had written before. Like, I really enjoy the work that those guys have done. But there were times the dialogue in this game made me cringe.
Yeah.
That I couldn't believe that this was where they went with it. And when you have something as transformative as Spec Ops: The Line is, and then you get this game that is so rote and predictable,
right?
It is really disappointing. Like, I can't imagine that Free Reign, hands off, could have written anything they wanted to, that this is what they would have come up with. Maybe this is the best they could come up with within the constraints that they had. That's very possible. That because of time, budget, whatever else, this is what they could come up with. And the reason that you play as Luke is like, well, we're making him for multiplayer. We gotta, you know, like, this is what we have to work with. Like, here are the things that we have. I don't know. So I was just really a bit disappointed about the whole campaign. And the thing that was really interesting, I've never had this happen before. This was the only game I've ever played that the suspended resume, like, didn't work.
Really?
That every time I would leave the game and then come back to resume it later, it would be so choppy, I couldn't play it. I'd have to quit out completely and restart the game. And it happened every single time I did it. So I thought that was a little bit interesting because I've never had that happen before. So I found that to be interesting. But after I played the campaign, which I did get my entire way through it, and it's not very long, and there's some fun parts to it. Like, there are parts from an action standpoint that are a good time. So I'm not disappointed that I played it or anything like that. But, I do wish the story had been a little better, and I think the very end of the story for me was a little okay. But like, I kind of was like, I mean, I guess I get why you did this, but I don't think you needed to do this. But that's cool. But then I did jump into the multiplayer, played some Galactic Assault.
Nice.
Lost. I think I played 4 maps. Lost all 4 maps really horribly. Have no idea what was happening 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Like, I generally knew that, like, oh, we have to go defend this thing or take this thing. Like, that part I got. But where I was dying from, how I was dying, what people were doing, like how to handle the heroes when they're on the field, how to handle the vehicles that are there. It's just one of those things that there's so much. And obviously, I'm level 1, 2, 3 as I'm going through this, playing with people who are level 78, 79, like they obviously have a few more hours into this game than I do. I'm just not certain how things are going. Now, I had fun. I actually held my own. I didn't do horribly. I was typically middle of the scoreboards. Other than the first game, I was at the very bottom. But then after that, I was typically middle of the scoreboards to kind of get my bearings out. But there were some really weird situations where it was like, oh, you need like 2 skill points and be at least like level 3 in assault to unlock this thing, to unlock this card. And I'd have 2 skill points and be level 3 in assault, and I couldn't unlock it. So I don't know I'm sure it was just me being an idiot, not knowing, oh, you have to go over to this other menu and then unlock it, then you can equip it. I don't know. But that was the only thing that I was like, well, I kind of want to keep playing this. I'm kind of having a little bit of fun. I just need to dig that in a little bit more and figure out what of all of these characters and star cards and abilities and all this stuff is what I want to do. Because there's so many different characters you could be.
Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, so overall, not super impressed with Star Wars Battlefront 2. I probably will continue to play the multiplayer a little bit, just when I'm looking for something not as, sometimes just when you have 20 on 20 battles is cool. Like, it's fun to play 20 on 20 stuff sometimes. So I probably will continue to play it a little bit. Do you play this game in first person or third person?
Third person.
You play it the correct way. Nice to know.
Well, there's no point in having a Star Wars license and play it first person.
I know, right? So the other game, though, that I did jump into then, is I had mentioned it a while ago. I jumped into Ruiner on Xbox, part of Game Pass. So I was like, hey, I like twin stick shooters a lot. This is kind of a twin stick shooter game. I'm going to jump into it. Let me tell you, this game has a very specific art direction it's going for. It is the developer is Rycon Games. I think they're somewhere Eastern Europe. Developed or published by Devolver, and as soon as you say Devolver, you get an idea of probably where you're going. And this fits this. Like, this is a Devolver game for sure. The art direction is definitely, they're going for a feel, they are going for a vibe. The music, all of that, it fits. It is this cyberpunky, like awesome, sweet, really cool, like I could never exist in this place because I'm just not cool enough vibe, and they go for it and they definitely accomplish that. However, the gameplay of this game is not something that I know if I can get into, and I really enjoy twin stick shooters. I love them. They're probably one of my favorite genres of games, and I just can't get the feel for this game when I'm playing it, because you both have melee weapons and guns, but you also have abilities, and how everything is mapped just feels weird. And you you hit like Y to bring up a radial dial of abilities that then you select, and then you hit left trigger to trigger it. And just with how fast the game moves, there's so much going on screen, and like, you don't have unlimited ammo for these, unlike a lot of twin stick shooters, you have unlimited ammo, but then you have to reload, and that's kind of when you're vulnerable. But this game, sometimes you just run out of ammo and you got to pick up a different gun that might have a different spread or a different, damage that it does, or however a different number of rounds, how fast it shoots. Like, that's all totally different. So you can never get into, the reason I like these games is kind of getting into that zone where you're just kind of using the music and you're in this vibe and you're just kind of going with it. So far in what I've played with this game, that is not something that exists, and that's fine. Is going for something different in the genre. There are long stretches between things where it's trying to tell you the story and it's telling you to kill the boss, and like things are cutting into the screen, and you have to so you'll have these long stretches where you're not fighting any enemies, and there's like these weird kind of storytelling things going on, and then the first boss you fight, you have to kill in a certain amount of time, and the only way to get more time is by killing other enemies. And it's just, and I don't like time things in general in games usually. So one of my least favorite things to be like, you have 30 seconds to get out of here. I hate that. mostly because then I like panic and drown in a place that I'm like, why are you going? You're going the exact wrong direction because I'm a bad video game player. But I'll probably play it a little bit more. Overall, I'm not super impressed. I'm happy I got a chance to play it and jump into it, because I know there are some people who are a big fan of this game. And I think that there's a certain group of people that Ruiner as a game is going to work for well. Just when I am playing twin stick shooters, I don't exactly think this is what I'm looking for. But like I said, it strikes the art direction well. The sound is great. Like, it hits some things really, really well. Just in the end, I don't think this is going to be a game that's exactly up my alley or what I'm looking to play. So that is Ruiner. And with that is what we have been playing. So with that, hey, let's move on to topic of the show. That sounds good, right?
Sounds great to me.
Awesome. Hey, so every once in a while, we like to go back and do an episode where we catch up on the news that has happened in board games and video games over the last month or so. There's no specific, hey, here are the biggest story highlights. Hey, here are all the things that we want to cover. We just pick a few stories and then we're going to talk about them really briefly. But the more fun part is, and I did not prep Josh with the show notes in this, is for every game, every story I listed in our show notes, I have a specific question I want to ask about it. Mm-hmm. So Josh is going to get to pick and talk about the story that he wants to, either about board games or about video games. And then I'm going to ask him a question about it. Not specific to the thing, but a general idea of what the story is trying to address. Does that sound like fun, Josh?
Sure. Sounds
awesome.
Great.
Because I'm sure you had a chance to read every single story I sent to you before we got to this.
I did, actually.
Oh, nice. Cool. All right. So like I said, I will let you just go ahead, pick and choose whatever stories you want, and then I'm going to ask you some questions for us to discuss.
Well, let's start with Z-Man announcing the Stone Age 10th Anniversary Edition.
All right. So what about it?
Well, I'll tell you what. I saw this a few days ago. I was excited. I showed it to my wife. We really like Stone Age. Mm-hmm. It's one of those games we want to play more. Like, actively people see it and they go, oh, we should play Stone Age. I like that it's going to have a dual-sided board now. And the other side is adding a winter season to the game. There's also a winter specific, themes or tasks. I don't like the price tag of $80.
$80, right? Okay.
That is a lot of money for essentially, I get it. All these games, they do big 10th anniversary collections. Until I see more, like Ticket to Ride, it is remarkably bigger. The pieces are remarkably nicer. Mm-hmm. You see the value in that. All I see is a box. So at this point in time, it does say it has upgraded components, but I gotta see those before I can, like, right now $80 sounds like too much.
Gotcha. So Stone Age is a game that I have always wanted to play, but I never have. Do you think jumping in on this 10th anniversary edition is the way for me to go?
That's a good question. No.
Okay.
No, I think it's like $40 for a regular Stone Age.
Right. That sounds right, yeah.
And it's a great game. Like, I don't think if you spend $40 on base Stone Age, I think you'd be happy.
Okay.
Even with all the new stuff for this, double the price, I don't see it at that value. But, you might play Stone Age and it might be your favorite game. And then in that situation, then yeah, it's worth it. But to jump right into it, I would hate for you to be disappointed at $80.
Gotcha. So that wasn't my actual real question. That was just me generally wondering, because I actually haven't played Stone Age, but I want to. So here's my real question. 10th anniversary editions are kind of becoming, you mentioned a little bit, we're starting to see more of these. There is the pandemic one that's coming out that seems like it's, even though it's also coming from Z-Man, seems way more, I don't want to say attention to detail, but it seems like they've treated it with maybe a little more care. Sure. And they've put more attention into what they're doing. You mentioned the Ticket to Ride one. 10th anniversary editions. Do we need to see more of these that are going along the pandemic route and the Ticket to Ride route? Or do you think they should be reserved for very specific games? And if so, is Stone Age one of those games?
I think if a game is strong enough to last 10 years, then yeah, I think 10 years is a good number for a collector's edition or an anniversary edition. That being said, if you haven't put out second edition, third edition, fourth edition games, like Fury of Dracula is getting a 4th edition release.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a game like that should be getting a 10th anniversary release also. Or Arkham Horror, who decided to change the way the game is on their reprint. Like, that's a ballsy move to change your game in an edition of it, not like a separate standalone game.
Right.
So I'm all for 10th anniversary editions. What was your second question? Part of that?
Do you think that Stone Age is a game, or like, is your line just basically, if you get to a 10th anniversary, you should get a 10th anniversary edition, or should it be reserved for very specific cornerstones? And if so, is Stone Age a cornerstone game?
I think Stone Age is a cornerstone game for people. I don't know that I'd like it better than Lords of Waterdeep, but I think it's on par with that. It's definitely, the theme is, obviously totally different. But no, I don't think any game should automatically get a 10th anniversary edition. But for those games that, for a company, if Z-Man is willing to spend the money to make a 10th anniversary of every game they make, more power to them. But that doesn't mean that they're going to see profit from that.
Gotcha. I can't wait till the 10th anniversary edition of Dead of Winter.
Hey, that's something they could do.
I know. I'd be down for it. You heard it here. You heard it here first, Plaid Hat. Awesome. All right. What's the next story you want to talk about?
Let's talk about, something that I can talk about because I backed it on Kickstarter. Let's talk about the Ancient World.
Ooh.
So speaking of Ryan Lockett and Megaland, I did not know this was a game from 2003, I believe. So on Kickstarter right now, there's a game called The Ancient World. It's the 2nd edition of Ryan Lockett's game. It caught my eye because of Ryan Lockett. I did not know it was a 2nd edition or reprint, but I believe it was 2003 when the first game came out. I could be totally wrong though. It looks incredible. The theme is different enough from like Above and Below and Near and Far that I'm totally on board with just kind of getting in and checking it out. There's going to be numbered limited edition boxes. The boards, everything about the game. I've seen some pictures of the older game. It's bigger. It's new art. There's metal coins. All the things you expect from a collector's edition or anniversary edition of a game for $50 for the whole game. What is cool about it is if you own the first edition, I think it's like $18 gets you all the upgraded stuff for the game, which is nice of them to offer that as well. And that's on Kickstarter now. It's doing well. I think there's 10 days left as of today.
And I have it set to remind me when we get to 48 hours left. So from what I can see, actually, the first Ancient World is quite a bit newer than that.
Okay.
2014.
2014.
2014.
All right.
So according to Board Game Geek, at least.
I missed a digit.
That is okay. That is okay. So here's my question, though. So this is the 2nd edition of the Ancient World. And obviously we just talked briefly about, Fury of Dracula's on a 4th edition, Descent 2nd edition. Like there's a whole bunch of games that get new editions of the game. How much has to change in a game for it to be a new edition versus a reprint from your perspective?
Okay, that's a good question. So I'll use so Sagrada's out of print. They will be doing a 2nd print run. So the obvious thing there's no difference in the way the game is produced.
Mm-hmm.
They paid for a certain amount of games to be printed. They waited till they sold through what they had. Boom, next run. So do I think it's fair for Sagrada to call it the 2nd edition? No, because it's a 2nd printing, not a 2nd edition. They're not changing anything about the game.
And to be clear, are they calling it 2nd edition?
No, they're not calling it anything yet because it's not even out yet.
Okay.
But if you're calling something a 2nd edition, I think it means something has to change. Whether it's rules changed, like Gloomhaven 2nd edition came out because they changed some of the rules because people gave them feedback on what they didn't like about the game, and they decided they don't need to just reprint it. They need to do a 2nd edition of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So they're changing something. So I think the difference is between a reprint and a new edition is changing the way. And going back to Arkham Horror, that's the drastic example of an edition change, because I don't think commonly you see a game going into a new edition changing the whole mechanic of a game.
So right. So in order for something to be a new edition, and I'm sure there's probably some industry guideline for this, but I have no idea what it is. So it's more fun just to, talk about it.
Yeah.
Does it require a rules change? Is art change enough to justify a second edition?
I think so. I mean, if the designers feel like they need to change something, I don't think they need to change specific things. Like if they go, oh, okay, well, we really messed up on this art, or we didn't realize what I wanted for this art, we're going to bring on this guy. I think that could be considered a second edition of a game. The same thing being, you could also just put out a reprint and change 15 pages of the rules if you don't want to call it the second edition, because you're just making the game better. I think you could side both ways on that. I think it's really just up to marketing at that point.
Excellent. What is the next news story we're going to talk about?
All right. I think the big one for board games, at least, is the Magic the Gathering Spellslinger Starter Kit. So for people who don't know about it, and I don't know why it took Magic this long to do this, but essentially, instead of going into a new Magic release and buying a starter kit or box or whatever they would call them, where you get, like what I used to do all the time, you go and you get all these cards that can get you going. You're literally just buying this set, which will include everything you need to play a 2-player game and learn Magic. It's not just it's not really designed to get you to starting a new deck to build, which you could do from this, but it's really saying, these cards work great together. Here's 2 decks. Open this, sit down, learn the game, play the game. You're done, which I think is great. And Dice Masters just started doing the same thing. No more booster packs. You buy a Dice Master set. You get the whole set in the box. Awesome. For people who don't like to collect. For people who like to collect, well, there's still sets they're releasing, but it's not going to be like that chase for rares. And then you can step into full Magic if you feel like it's something that you like or want to get into. This is a great entry level way to get into Magic, which is what I would do if I wanted to relearn Magic, because I thought, I haven't played Magic for that long. And like 2 years ago, I spent $200. I bought someone's Magic cards they didn't want anymore. I just looked at them and I didn't know what the heck to do. I got so overwhelmed because everything has changed since I played Magic. So now I got rid of those cards. They're gone. So now if I want to get back into Magic and teach my wife, which I couldn't do with all that, is now we can both sit down and learn it together and decide, is this what we want to get into or not? So I think it's great that they're doing it.
So here's my question on this then. Do you think, and I'm going to use an absolute, and I don't mean it as an absolute, but it's just easier. Do you think there's going to be anyone who walks into a store and says, I've never played Magic before. I'm going to buy this, and I'm going to find another person who's never played Magic before, and we're going to sit down and we're going to learn how to play Magic together?
That's unlikely. I think that people going into this have someone in mind already, like a buddy. They're like, hey, let's get into Magic. Or, hey, I saw this thing at the store the other day, and it's like how to play Magic, basically. You want to try it. I know places still do Magic events, but I do know for a fact, and this isn't a slam on Magic players, it's not a very forgiving environment for new players.
It's very challenging. Absolutely. Yes. You know, especially like even going to FNMs, like the rules, how rules are enforced at FNM are not supposed to be the same as like a GP or the Pro Tour. Yeah. Some places, they're maybe a little heavy-handed.
There's a lot of alpha players who play Magic. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that it's like that. I mean, it could be better, but that's just a personal opinion.
No, I hear you. I think this is a really interesting move by Wizards. I obviously, back in the day played a ton of Magic. Not all that long ago, but long enough ago that when I watch events of the Pro Tour, like I do occasionally now, I don't know. I know generally what's going on, but I definitely don't know the new cards or any of that good stuff. But it was interesting because I saw this and then I was thinking about it, and I don't think that I know anyone who learned to play Magic not being taught by someone who already knows Magic.
Yeah, I that's how I learned, by someone who played Magic.
And maybe it would be a situation where I would, go with a friend that, like, if I was still playing and I would bring a friend in, I'd be like, hey, let's go halvesies on this, but I'll just give you it all when it's done, and I'll teach you. We'll sit down together and I'll teach you how to play using these decks. Like, maybe that would happen, I guess. And maybe that's what they're intending for to happen with this. I just can't, in my mind, because of how I've learned Magic and how everyone I know who plays Magic learned Magic. This is not something where two random people are going to be like, we've never played this game before, but let's buy this thing to teach us. Right.
But so when we went to PAX Unplugged, my wife and I signed up for the Star Wars Destiny Learn to Play. Mm-hmm. You paid $15 and you each got a starter kit and you sat down and it filled up every day. So I would say within the course of those 3 days, over 60 people learned Star Wars Destiny that hadn't even played it before.
Right.
So
and that's awesome.
It would be a good audience for people like that. Obviously, it's not majority.
Absolutely. I still think it's a cool thing. I do wonder, and I'm sure they have the numbers. I'm sure they know, their marketing departments and everything know. I just do wonder how many people learn Magic from not someone who already knows Magic.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that.
Awesome. All right, next story, sir. And like I said, you can go wherever you want.
Yeah, I am. I'm going to go to the big story of the week. Microsoft reveals a new way to get an Xbox One console, Xbox Live Gold, and Xbox Game Pass by bundling it together. So it's called Xbox All Access. You can only get it through Microsoft Store currently. Mm-hmm. You have to sign a 2-year agreement, and that is through their Dell accounting.
You're basically getting a Dell credit card.
It's like a Dell credit card. There's no APR until after your thing is over, and then if you use it, there is. They don't mention penalties for missed payments.
I think there are penalties if you have an outstanding balance at the end, which you obviously would if you miss a payment.
Right.
Unless you make it up somehow.
Yes. So math-wise, you can do it with the Xbox One S or the X. In my opinion, so the easiest thing to do is compare it to a phone deal, because to get the X, it's $34.99 a month.
Yep.
And I'm talking to my coworkers at work who are interested in X's. They're fans of the idea. So the biggest difference between that and the phone deal is when you do the phone lease, you're paying a lot more over the life of that lease than you would if you bought the phone outright. Mm-hmm. And with this deal, it's actually $10 less, at least for the X deal. I didn't look up the S.
Yeah, the S deal is actually quite a bit better of a deal. You're saving on everything, I think over $100.
So that's great. But even with the X, saving just $10 is still a great deal for people who can get approved and can't afford to just spend $1,000 outright.
Right.
But I know a lot of people are losing their stuff about it. And that's fine. Our Discord is particularly hot on the topic. And I don't know how much of that is the inherent Microsoft bias or not, because I just don't know why this can't be a thing. It's not hurting anybody. You shouldn't be assuming people can't get credit who can't afford to buy an Xbox outright, because that's just a terrible thing to say about someone. Some people have good credit, but they just can't afford to drop $1,000 on a console.
Correct.
Talk to their wives.
Or their husbands. They could be female gamers.
I wasn't done yet. Talk to their significant others. $34.99 a month is way more feasible to bite off of instead of making that giant jump. I got a Target card just to get a 4K TV because it was more affordable for me to do that, and it builds credit, and I'm sure this will build credit too. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with a program like this, there will be situations where it doesn't go well, But they're giving you an opportunity. No one has to sign up for this. You can get an Xbox the good old-fashioned way. You can go to GameStop and trade stuff in. You can do whatever you want. I just think, I don't know why we have to see this as a negative thing. In my opinion, it's just Microsoft trying to sell consoles.
Right. I always I get a little, I don't think this is a negative thing. I do think I always get a little worried just in credit in general, because I think we throw credit around as a very, we think it kind of solves a lot of problems. And I think about, myself in college at 18, who was like, I really want an Xbox One X. I don't have a lot of debt because I'm 18, so I can get approved for $800, but I'm also 18 and I might be I wasn't super smart.
Right.
I might miss a payment here or pay late or do whatever. And suddenly, very quickly, you go from a very manageable situation if you were on top of your life to not a great situation if you're not on top of your life. Like maybe I was at 18, that you're still paying for years later. So that's more of like what my concerns go in with this, of like, yes, people are going to say, well, that's personal responsibility. Right. But if you're 18 or 19 or 20, I don't even necessarily think about the family. I think about those 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are in college who want an Xbox like their friends do, so they can play with them and do those things that maybe haven't had, a situation where they had a family who talked about how credit works and how you have to make payments and why it's important and the long-term impacts you can have on this. Like, same thing happens with school loans, right? Like, obviously that's a lot more drastic, but here's $20,000. Right. You'll have to pay that back later, but here you go. You're 18, here's $20K, no big deal. So that's where actually my concern more comes in, is those situations.
Those people, though, they're going to go to Best Buy and they're going to get a 24% APR and still get an Xbox One X.
Right. And that's the thing too, is like, so for me, it's more of just that general feeling of these situations make me feel a little uneasy because I know those things happen. And yes, you could say that's a personal responsibility thing. Sure, it definitely is. But I know that there's going to be someone somewhere who probably wouldn't have been in this situation, but now is going to be, because this is an option. Oh yeah,
look at my credit report. I hear you. I did the same thing when I was 18. I had a Sears card. I had a Best Buy card.
Right. Yeah. So my concern isn't a lot of our, we tend to lean towards an older audience, or a more like adult, if you would, like we have jobs and kids and all those things, audience. But my concern, because especially since I work with college students, like that's where my concern comes in, is that generation more. But overall, like, I think this is a thing that can definitely exist. And I think there are a lot of people who are going to use it and use it fine. And it's not going to be a big deal. It's another way to just get an Xbox. And I think it's just Microsoft diversifying things, So like I said, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I do think, that overall, I think the vast majority of people who will probably take advantage of this is going to go fine. Yeah. And you're right, because if it didn't go fine, they could have gone to Best Buy or wherever and gotten a credit card from that company and bought the thing too. It's just one more way that can happen. So yeah, not a huge deal to me. I think it's kind of cool that it's a bundle though. They just get it all. And realistically, if you didn't want to, you wouldn't have to buy another game.
Yeah, that's really smart. I think like we talk about them, like people wanting them to bundle Game Pass with Live anyways. Like this is all of it together.
Right. Absolutely. all right. We're going to do even though I have so many more stories, we're going to do one more story and then we'll go to our listener question and then we'll call it a night. So last one. Well,
do you want to do okay. I was going to do, all right, let's do the Miyamoto one, because I think that's, when I was reading it, it really, I saw myself thinking he nailed it. And of course, as I open this, the video starts playing. So Shigeru Miyamoto, we all know who he is. If you don't know who he is, he created Mario, Donkey Kong, Zelda, Star Fox. He made a comment warning his peers in the gaming industry to not be greedy by veering away from the free-to-play model. So when I first saw the story, I didn't really know what to think about, like why he would say that, but it kind of makes total sense. So he's talking about this obsession with microtransactions that's going on right now, and people becoming greedy. I think ultimately not putting content in their games because they know that they can slow leak content out and people will keep paying and paying and paying. I was shocked to find out today that the Fortnite Season 6 is like 2 weeks away. Like, that's another, for the people who aren't like earning like enough V-Bucks to pay for the next season, like that's another like $10 someone has to pay to play with all the new content. Obviously, we saw what happened with EA and how that, everything they went through. And now there's rumors about Smash Brothers having to buy amiibos to unlock characters and all these games that lock like characters behind like paladins and all these mobile games where you have the option to buy characters, or some characters you can only unlock with currency that you can't earn in the game. So he also mentioned specifically that's why they tried charging for like Mario Run. It was like $10 and like nothing to purchase afterwards. So I think for someone like Miyamoto to come out and say that, like, he really needs to. He's not the type of person to specifically, like, I wouldn't say he's going after anybody, but to draw attention to other creators in an industry that has really just been, like, today in our Discord, in the general chat, you would see two people going back and forth on Destiny 2 for hours.
Yeah.
About, like, in Destiny 2, you got to pay $80 for this new expansion that came out. That's a lot of money for a game that it was $100 to get the first full game.
Right.
Now it's another $80. And like I see both sides, the argument on not enough content and enough content, because it's not going to click for everybody. Some people will think it's worth it, some won't. So yeah, one of his quotes was, "It's necessary for developers to learn to get along with subscription-style services. When seeking a partner for this, it's important to find someone who understands the value of your software. The customers will feel the value in your apps and software and develop a habit of paying money for them." So I think that's very smart. Do you have any thoughts on Miyamoto?
So here's my question for you. And I don't know, I know this might be controversial with our Nintendo fans. So Miyamoto comes out and says, "Hey, stop being greedy. Let's spend $60 to buy Skyrim on Switch." When I bought Skyrim on PS4 for like $12.
But how much do you think he has to say about that price over Bethesda?
No, I know. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? Because he's like, "Hey, we're looking at free-to-play games and all this stuff." And I am one person who, on the record of, I think that free-to-play, that games that are on, mobile, there should be a price to them. Like, I am fine with paying like $5, $10, $15 for a mobile game if they're not going to charge me for stuff later and they're going to give me all the content. Like, I think that's a good thing. I agree with him about that. But I just found it very odd that, we joke regularly about the Switch tax and if that's actually a thing or not. And now here's Nintendo coming out and saying, "Hey, yo, I know we've charged you, every generation for the same game on Virtual Console, but don't be greedy, developers. Don't be greedy."
Yeah. Well,
it just seems a little odd.
If they put out like Super Mario Sunshine port and it's $60, I totally agree with you on that.
Well, because wasn't the Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze game more expensive on Switch than it was on Wii U?
You know what? You're absolutely right. So it's a little hypocritical.
And I get it's a totally different model, and I get games cost money to make. Like, I'm not arguing that. It just seems a little odd that Nintendo is the one coming out and saying, "Hey, don't be greedy." But it's almost because they're like, we don't do that business. And how much money have they made off of Fire Emblem Fates on mobile? That game's killing. So anyway, I just think it's very interesting that Nintendo is the one coming out to say this.
That's very true. And you know what? I wasn't even thinking about Fire Emblem because you totally have to buy to stay up to date with the characters.
Right.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Good call out.
And right, exactly. I shouldn't say that. It's Miyamoto coming out and saying it. It's not Nintendo. It's not a statement Nintendo released. It's Miyamoto very specifically saying, "Hey, here's how I feel about this." I should not put that then on the rest of the company, because this could just be him who has enough pull to go and say something like that, even if Nintendo's like, "Hey, we're making a lot of money, don't say that." Like, it's fine.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't not agree with him. I mean, I agree with him, but yeah. All right, sir. Hey, that was fun. Maybe we'll talk about some of these other stories another time. I think just briefly, it should be mentioned that obviously we didn't talk about the events that happened in Jacksonville. Josh and I talked about it beforehand. I don't think either one of us feel like we have anything profound enough to add to the situation and to what other people have already said. So we recognize that it might be weird for us to talk about the big news in games and not acknowledge that terrible tragedy happened. I just don't think either one of us have enough to say that hasn't already been said to address that in any meaningful way.
Right. We don't want to waste your time shoveling, I don't want to say thoughts and prayers, but the equivalent of, like, we've covered our thoughts on the topic before.
Yes, we did a whole episode about violence.
It's terrible that it happened. We just hope that security measures are put in place for future events. It stinks that they have to do that, but we need to have our gamers safe. And if that's how it has to be, then let's make everyone safe.
Absolutely. All right. What question do we have this week, sir?
Okay, well, at Dopalicious, we know him as Splig, sends in a coded question. You didn't see this, but it looked like the note you would see from a serial killer at a crime scene.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what it's all about. So Splig asks, what's your favorite social deduction game? I haven't been able to play many with just my wife and kids, but really tempted to get one. So for me, I'm a fan of social deduction games, even though my wife hates them. Secret Hitler is a very good game, despite having a unfortunate title with what's going on nowadays. Spyfall, very good, but I still think my favorite is Resistance or Avalon, depending on the mood of the players. I have played another game, and I'm forgetting the name of it, but it has kings and queens and jesters, and that name is escaping me, but that's also a very fun game as well, and I wish I could remember it. But each character in that game has like a special ability, and you blindly you can like pass cards around, and people try to guess your identity. And I'm bummed I can't think of the name. Do you have any favorite social deductions?
Is that game that you're thinking of like Masquerade or something?
It's Masquerade, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was like, I feel like that's the one you're talking about. That's one I really want to play that I haven't had a chance to yet.
It's very good. It's very fun.
Yeah, I really want to play that. For me, I'm a big fan of social deduction games, but like you, I don't get to play them very often. One of the ones that I think the one that gets played the most is definitely the Resistance, and I still enjoy the Resistance a lot. I think it is a good, fun time. I think that Shadows over Camelot is really good. It's one that requires 3 players, like most of these do. I just don't get to the table probably as often because, again, just the wife and I aren't going to play it. But I really do enjoy Shadows over Camelot. Like I said, Masquerade's on the short list of one that I would want to do. And then the only other one that I know it's not actually a social deduction game, but it has a piece of social deduction in it. You know, Dead of Winter, right? You can have a traitor in there. So trying to deduce whether or not you have a traitor, I think is great. And then obviously, I don't mind Werewolf. I think Werewolf is an easy one that a lot of people are familiar with. So that's pretty good. But yeah, I think definitely the go-to played the most still for me is definitely the Resistance.
Nice. And Splig's hidden message was Hail Hydra. Spelled out in his question with capital letters.
Nice.
Which is on the top of my list of games to get next. I'm just itching to go trade some games in the GameStop so I don't break my no buying games rule. Because Hail Hydra looks incredible. It's getting stellar reviews. And it is a social deduction game.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, thanks for the question, Splig. We appreciate it as always. Josh, we've been going for quite a long time. Why don't we say we call it a night and wrap this show up?
Sounds good. I've literally soaked through my shirt, so it's going to be nice to jump in the shower. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Remember, you can find us on social media at BoldWithVG on all the things. Use that hashtag BoldWithVG. Also, if you want to be so bold as some of our listeners, like Paul and Splig, just put at BoldWithVG in your posts that mention game publishers, because we love the recognition. So yeah, feel free to do that. Facebook.com/BoardWithVG, and the ever wanting fan fiction email boardwithvg@gmail.com. For plugs, I'm just going to say I can say it now because I know it's happening. We have been blessed with being called social media influencers by Yellow, the board game company, which is, I think, just probably something they send to everybody. But it's flattering nonetheless. Kyle and I will be getting some board games from Yellow soon. So we are going to figure out how we're going to do this, but we'll be reviewing proper some Yellow games hopefully soon and getting some stuff on the BSVG blog. So I'm very excited about it. And it's just another step forward for us, doing hopefully what all you guys love to listen to. We had a new listener jump into the Discord, so please feel free to join. I think it's Kaiju Guy.
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
I'm a fan of the name immediately, so it got my attention. So Kaiju Guy jumped into Discord, said he's been a listener for a while. We talk about a lot of awesome stuff in there, so if you guys want to jump into that Discord, you can find the link on psvg.blog and jump in the board game section and have some talks with us, because a lot of times it's just Kyle and I sharing cool new info coming out in board games.
It is. Josh and I talk a lot to each other in there.
So that'll be my plugs for the day. I'll skip over the generic stuff. Kyle, where can people find you?
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Board Game Geek, all at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS. As a reminder, we have the Metafall contest going on. So hit up psvg.blog, look at our pinned tweet at Board with VG on Twitter, or listen to episode 46 for all the rules. You could win a free video game that's releasing this fall. Entries are due September 7th. We already have some entries that have rolled in. I'd encourage you to continue to think about, don't think about it, sending your email. Send your email to boardwithvg@gmail.com with the 10 games. Again, hit at psvg.blog to find all the rules to make sure you're sending in your Metacritic scores for the proper 10 games. So you'll get one more reminder next week. And your reminder next week will be after the Spider-Man reviews are out. So you'll know at least how Spider-Man scored. So, because those come out a week from today when we're recording. But as always, if you have suggestions for future topics, be sure to reach out to us on the social media, because we want to talk about what you want to hear about. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We really do truly appreciate it. And remember, everyone, whether it be board games or video games, never stop gaming.